Is truth stranger than fiction?
So this massive college admission scandal, 50 people facing charges, and more arrests are likely in the weeks and months ahead.
Actresses Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman are two of the dozens of wealthy parents accused in the alleged scheme.
Huffman walked out of court late Friday, but within the next 6 weeks, she'll need to walk into a federal prison.
Lori Loughlin will be celebrating Halloween behind bars.
Ooh, definitely no treat to be there.
The debut novel, Girls with Bright Futures, by longtime friends Tracy Dobmeier and Wendy Katzman, tackles the social hierarchy of moms and the zeal in which they propel their students through life. Call them helicopter moms, snowplow parents, or bulldozers. The book follows 3 women with 3 daughters and a promise that they each get what they deserve. Heralded by Library Journal, Publishers Weekly, Parade, and one of Newsweek's most anticipated novels of 2021, Girls with Bright Futures is unputdownable. We are pleased to welcome Tracy Dobmeier and Wendy Katzman to our Northwest Passages virtual book club.
Joining us tonight for this unputdownable book. I am pleased to introduce Tracy and Wendy. Thank you very much for agreeing to come to us virtually here in Spokane.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here with you.
Yeah, and I noticed, we did get a mention in the book. You guys are based in Seattle. Spokane is mentioned like page 296, 300. You did get to us eventually. Thank you. But yeah, you're in our paper here. So you've made this list of all this, which is really exciting. But what's it like to write this book and suddenly get all of these lists? Every time I turn around, it's another list. Real simple. I saw that after the script was written. I mean, gosh.
It's like completely surreal. I don't know how else to describe it. This is kind of a dream come true for us.
Yeah, our hope had been to write a book and
get it published.
Yeah. And to be able to hold it and for so long the story has lived in our heads and with a few other people or on paper and a few other people, and to see it shared with other people and to see their reaction to it. I mean, it sounds corny, but it's magical. It is.
Magical is great because, books take people to magical places and put them in places that they, can't get to right now for sure. But I want to start with talking about your friendship. You said you wanted to write a book. Okay, most friends, when they, get together and they find their BFF, they like to take trips to the spa. They want to take a vacation together. How did you come up with, all right, yeah, you know what? We should write a book.
We're just really weird.
No.
Well, I'll tell you. So
You're taking it to a whole new level.
We've been friends for more than 20 years. So I actually met Wendy's husband right after college when we were both working in Washington, D.C. But I didn't know Wendy at the time, and I don't even know, well, I guess Van's kind of me, yeah. But then several years later, we all ended up in Seattle as young married couples, coincidentally. And neither of us had any extended family here, so we've filled that role for each other over the years. We've raised our kids together, we've celebrated milestones, and supported each other through a lot of ups and downs.
But it is not an exaggeration to say that we always felt we were going to collaborate on something. We knew that was just inevitable. And some of that was we did some volunteering together and we realized we worked really well together. So we used to bat around a lot of book ideas. They were always nonfiction. And we had business ideas and board game ideas.
Full of ideas.
Yes, but like the perfect idea eluded us. And it was during those years, like like a lot of friends, you get together and we're talking about motherhood and friendship and the choices that we were making about working while our kids were little.
Right. And I would just add, like, we were raised in this generation where we were told that we should be able to have it all. And as we had these young kids and we were juggling careers and, just like a new life, we kind of were struggling at times to understand what that really would look like for us and our family. So we just talked a lot.
And so getting to how did we decide to write a book together?
Yeah.
So I had a pretty active career.
Years,
right?
I mean, having it all, that's a myth. I think you figured that out, right?
Yeah,
You did a good
sure.
job of putting stuff together, but you know, the book instead of a board game. Well, you had mentioned you had thought about writing other books. I mean, you said this was a you wanted to write fiction versus nonfiction. How did you decide that this was going to be in the contemporary fiction market, that was your big thing? I mean, did you throw a dart at a dartboard?
I wish it was like that. Well, it started in that when our three our older kids, both of Tracy's and my older one, were going off to, or in the college admissions pipeline. So they were in high school. Both of our families had pretty terrifying health crises. And everyone's fine. We always say that, it's kind of a bummer, but everybody's fine. And but it was those like odd, terrifying coincidences during these college frenzy years that gave us this unique perspective on the insanity that this whole college thing was. So it was this juxtaposition between health and college admissions that was like our original inspiration.
Right. And we actually did originally talk about writing nonfiction. We were kind of oddly inspired by this great book called Modern Romance, which was a collaboration between the comedian Aziz Ansari and a sociologist from Columbia. His name was Eric Kleinenberg, and they examined like romance and courtship rituals and how they've evolved over the last 100 years. And there was just something about that book that kind of like captured our imagination, and just the way that, you know, it combined humor and research, and we got us kind of thinking about whether we might want to do something like that, about like friendship and modern motherhood. So we started kind of really talking about doing a writing project at that time, but it was different.
Yeah, because we realized that we were neither sociologists nor comedians. So,
oh, come on, you're funny. You're funny. There's
Ansari funny. Yeah.
Okay.
So we were sitting in Tracy's kitchen, you know, trying to work out this idea, and she like literally looked at me and said, like, what if we wrote fiction? And I'm always up for a challenge. I said, sure.
She's a total gamer.
Like, why not? And that was February 2016. But the problem was we first had to learn how to write a novel.
Yeah, that was a trick. So, because we had no formal training in creative writing. And I was a lawyer by my profession. Wendy was a marketing executive. And we had done a lot of writing, you know, in our careers, but we didn't have an MFA, and we didn't know the first thing about creative writing, to be perfectly honest. So, but we were lifelong readers of fiction. And so at first we kind of wondered, like, do we need to take some classes and, you know, before trying this? But I remembered that a friend of mine once told me that women often think that they need more degrees and more training and just more kind of preparation to kind of jump into a new career direction. And oftentimes it's just not true. And I mean, unless you're doing like heart surgery or something, and then you should definitely go to school. But yeah.
But everything kind of changed. So we read the book Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And that changed everything. So for years.
Have you read that one?
Have you read that book?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like, do it.
Do it.
Embrace it.
Yes. Yeah.
And so here we've been urging our kids, right, to adopt this growth mindset, which, to borrow the phrase from that was coined by the Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck, you know, just telling them that it's okay to try new stuff and take risks and, you know, maybe fail. And yet here we were unwilling to take that. So that's what just pushed us over the edge, to have the courage to just get in the arena and try.
Yeah. So we just started reading, studying, you know, but like Googling, how do you write a novel? Like, we tried everything. Yeah.
Well, technology working for you. So you started writing the book before that crazy college admission scandal and Varsity Blues. Although I never thought something like that happened until, I mean, really, I guess I'm just naive. But when that all hit, and then reading this, available at your local independent bookstore, available for purchase. Here in Spokane, it's Auntie's. And if you're watching us online on our live stream, there is a button right above us where you can click and order it directly from Auntie's. They'll ship it to you. I saw that actually somebody's watching here, or their address was from Hawaii. So if, aloha, order from Auntie's.
Aloha, yeah.
But so the college admission scandal hadn't even hit, and you came up with this. So what was your reaction to that?
Oh my gosh. Well, so yeah, I mean, it was crazy. We've been working on, in some form or fashion, on this idea for like three years at that point. And but we were still stunned when it broke. It was just, so we were we plotted this entire book, and we had written most of the manuscript when the scandal broke. And it truly felt like the headlines had been ripped from our manuscript. And we feel like we're constantly trying to tell people, no, we didn't write this in response to Operation Varsity Blues. Right. We did kind of anticipate some of this, but
I mean, we looked at, once it all came out, so part of our reaction was we had to look at our manuscript and say, did we go far enough? Because what the parents did was outrageous. And so given the story that we were already telling, we have to say we weren't all that surprised that there was this type of criminal behavior, but we were definitely surprised by how brazen it was and the extent of the conspiracy. That was pretty breathtaking.
Our jaws were on the ground. It was crazy. Yeah.
Also, and moms working sometimes without their husbands knowing, which is what happened here as well. In one of the storylines, is all of the things that I think Kelly was doing at one point. For those of you tuning in who may not have read this book, it is about the college admissions process as seen through the eyes of moms and their daughters that are all trying to get into the same elite school. Everything is in here. All the deadly sins. We got pride, we got greed, we got lust, we got envy, all of this. But what does that really all say about the college admission process? It does take you to a whole different level of parenting, because you think you've gotten your kid to this point, and then, all right, well, no, he's a catch. I have a son, I have two daughters and a son. I mean, 1 and 2 and 1. So I got 2 of each. He just is going through the college admission process. You were introducing phrases I had not seen since anyway, we'll get to that later. However, let's talk about some of the things. Well, you guys have gotten your kids up and into college. Good job. And you didn't go to jail.
Did not.
Good job.
I still have one more.
Did you reference any college essay books? There's actually a writer here, Rachel Toor, who has written a really amazing book, Write Yourself In. And I picked it up for my kid when he was in, 8th grade, because, that age.
That's what
What kind of research into the college experience or stuff did you do to bring yourself up to speed from when you had applied to college?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So
a lot.
Yeah. I mean, there were some books that we read that were really helpful, both with helping, I think, our kids figure it out for our kids, but also informed the research that went into our book. So one of our favorites is Excellent Sheep, The Miseducation of the American Elite by William Deresiewicz. And it just gives a fascinating kind of historical view of how we got to this, what were all the forces, that kind of led us to where we are.
Right, the U.S. News and World Report college rankings, which didn't exist before, was it 1972
1983
or something?
That was your trivia question.
That's right.
We will absolutely have a list of these in the link for this, of all of these books.
Yeah, it's a great trivia. And we also read Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be by Frank Bruni, who is a New York Times columnist who was writing a lot about college for a while.
And then I really found helpful. There was a book that was called The Short and Tragic Life of Robert Peace by Jeff Hobbs. And it was an interesting framing about a young man from Newark who ended up at Yale. So those were really just helpful. We read every article we could get our hands on that The Atlantic wrote, the New York Times,
Washington Post. Yeah, you name it. We read it.
Yeah.
Excellent writers are, excellent readers. So there you had it. You had to.
Right.
Yeah.
With in talking about though the private school experience and prep school of Elliott Bay Academy, many of those stereotypes and themes are really regular. They work with regular school too. You nailed the cliques. You nailed the cliques with the moms. Are your friends and relatives scared that you're in this book? They're like, wait, no. Because you did projects in the PTA, all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah, we're just fixing.
Sorry, we're fixing our camera.
I
just got that we're one sec.
I know that's a cool trick.
Yeah, we're waving.
No,
okay, we're
right
a little better. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
That's definitely a risk whenever you're going to write contemporary fiction. It's in the back of your mind that are people going to turn this into a parlor game or who's who, but I think what's important to know about our story is that we set out to tell a very specific story, and we structured it with these 3 moms from 3 different socioeconomic backgrounds in order to do that. And then we breathed in life and details into these characters to tell the story we wanted to tell, not the other way around. And, making it up was a lot of the fun of this whole process for us.
Definitely. Yeah. And similarly, like we name probably like between 40 and 50 different colleges and universities. And sometimes in not the most flattering light, we have our characters making snarky comments about all these different schools and judgments. And we really made a conscious decision to do that. It wasn't safe in a sense, but we knew we had to kind of drive straight into the storm to really show like how damaging that type of thing can be to communities and to kids and to, just the fabric of our existence.
What does that say, though, do you think about like the brands of the colleges? Were you concerned about brushback from perhaps your alma maters? I believe you mentioned them as well.
We did. We didn't pull any punches. Nope. We weren't really concerned about it because it's fiction, and we were trying to, bring like all of these anxieties that parents and kids and communities are experiencing to life in a fun and crazy story. And so we weren't worried about that really. We just felt like it's all part of art, and we're just trying to kind of provoke conversation.
Yeah. Truly. Well, I talked earlier about some of the phrases that I had no idea about when I applied. Back in the day. All right, I knew what early decision was. I knew what a legacy was. Those were the 2 phrases I knew.
Okay.
Didn't know about hook.
Okay.
Didn't know about what an Ivy Plus was. And I went to an East Coast prep school. So I absolutely should have known what Ivy Plus was, unless, of course, that wasn't a thing in the 80s.
I don't think it was
I don't remember.
I think all this is new.
Yeah.
Yeah. A no loan list. I had no idea what that was. Okay. And so my kids are applying to colleges and I didn't know any of this. So I learned some things. Well, do you think, how many colleges did you apply to when you were applying, and how it's changed now? I mean, I was like 5 that I applied for, but now a push of the button, you can apply to 20 or it's expected.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That has changed
a lot.
That has changed a lot.
Yeah. I would say my experience versus like my kids' experience wasn't all that different. I was an athlete. So that's a hook. And
noted.
My kid. And so our processes were similar and have not changed all that much. Yeah.
And how many schools did you apply to?
I think I ended up applying to 3 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And mine, I was not an athlete. Clumsiest person on earth. So I would say that a lot changed for me. I applied to 7 schools, and my kids applied to, I don't know, a dozen or something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, I guess.
Yeah, the evolution of how that's changed. I don't know how that can continue. But wait, you said Tracy that you were an athlete. Did you play tennis?
Wendy, yeah, I did.
Wendy, sorry. You played tennis? Because there was a scene that totally freaked me out. One of the, many laughing, crazy scenes, though, when Alicia was playing a game. And I think that's when Alicia started learning about her power to manipulate people during a tennis match. She looked up her opponent. You're not as fat as they say you are. And that was it. She won. And I'm sorry, that's stuck with
girl thing to do.
I never did that.
Never do that. No, those things never happen to you. You would never do it.
Well, I never did it. That's all I'm going to tell you.
No. There were really some funny. The humor in this book, though, is phenomenal. But some of the funniest bits that I thought were from Ted and Ted Clark, the principal of Elliott Bay Academy.
Yeah.
The stuff that he wrote, my favorite is, as I read, because it's the unput-downable book, Girls with Bright Futures. He had to write this to the parents. And I think that this is, the kids, they're all fine and, for the most part, trying to get by. But the parents, and he has to tell parents, do not contact any college or university with information about another student, whether anonymously or not. Do not pressure students to share plans. Do you have a favorite? Do not bring cookies to the college admission staff.
Well,
you can't do this without giggling. There has to be. Read one of your favorite do nots.
We had so much fun writing this. We will say, You want to read one?
I'll read one because it's hard to pick one. So the all-encompassing one. So when you read it, there are a whole bunch of them, and it says, in case these rules are not clear or comprehensive enough, there is really only one question you need to ask yourself when considering any college-related action. Might this make me look like a gigantic elephant's asshole? If yes, just don't.
P.S.
Words to live by.
Please forgive my use of colorful language. I've tried every non-profane way I can think of to get to these points in previous emails, private conversations with parents, and I can imagine this happening. And then he has a new acronym for VFT, which on page 205 for those of you playing along at home.
Yeah, we had fun writing that. We were just sort of the frustration that the schools must feel when these parents are just going crazy. So
did your kids experience any outrageous things while they were applying, or did they hear of classmate or what's an outrageous thing that you didn't put in the book, although there's a lot in here?
Well, it's fiction. So
yes, I know. Okay, it's fiction. Yeah, let's say that's the disclaimer. That's fine. But I mean, it does. There's a lot of anxiety, but it's almost self fulfilling to some point.
Right. Yeah, I can't think of any specific things like with my kids. I just feel like it was, what we were really just trying to do was like I said earlier, like just really trying to bring these anxieties to life and just show how they can not only kind of like take on a life of their own, but then they can, cause like one person's anxieties, can then feed into another person's anxieties. And then it can become this like spiraling action until suddenly there are all these consequences, some intended, like many not, that, that kind of take over. And so that was kind of what we were trying to do with that.
Yeah. But in fact, we did come up with our own malady.
Oh, right.
That we observed through this process, and it did not make it into the book, but we will share it with you. It's called Parental Obsessive College Syndrome, POCS. Would you like to read this one?
You want me to read it?
You can read it.
Okay. All right. POCS is an anxiety syndrome in which parents of high school students suffer repeated paranoid thoughts and sensations concerning college admissions, compelling them to act in ways they would rather not admit. If severe and left untreated, POCS can destroy a person's capacity to function at work, maintain meaningful relationships, or even lead a comfortable existence in the home. So that was kind of our guiding light.
Well, and it's almost, it takes you back to when, your kids are learning to walk, or, oh, he walked it too, or he talked or said his first words. It's like, they're going to get there.
Yeah.
And your kid is going to go to college or not. It's fine. Education is what you make of it. You can give your kid whatever opportunity, and what they do with it is up to them, and everything's going to be okay in the long run, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, the book talks about college admission as the game. It's a main theme throughout it. But another one is family, the one that you're born with, which in Marin's case, does not work well for her or support her at all. And then the one that you create, Marin creates her own dynamic of family. Alicia did too. Kelly, I think, created a family that she wasn't quite completely. She lost sight of how great they were in a lot of ways. But that's my opinion. It's your book. Tell me which you think is. Do you have a character that is more functional than others, or which character was most involved for you to write in them creating the family that they have?
Interesting. I mean, I guess I would say that, like, in terms of functional and involved in the creation, I would say probably Marin and
she's the heroine. Yeah. I mean, you can't not love her.
Yeah,
she's
wonderful, and she's had a lot of trauma, and a lot of, like, she's had to kind of overcome a lot, and I think she's gained wisdom through some of the pain that she's suffered over time, and so I think she has probably the healthiest mother-daughter relationship, and therefore the most functional family, since that's her whole family.
Okay, what was the next question?
Easy to write, but I mean, on the Marin thing, Marin's that dynamic almost had that Gilmore Girls kind of esque dynamic a little bit. Now, did you watch that show?
Oh my gosh, we love that show.
We discovered that show after we wrote this book.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So it was the summer. It was summer. We'd sold the book. It was that summer. Yeah. And we discovered that show. And
we'd always been to
watch it.
Yeah.
That's the show that we were so sad that we'd watched before the pandemic, because that would have been the perfect pandemic show.
Right.
Because it's just, but you're right, that dynamic between the mother, Rory, and Lorelai, is just wonderful.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Great rating on that show.
Yeah. Aspire to that relationship.
Right.
Do you think in the books with the characters of Alicia and Kelly, do they have the families that they deserve?
That's a tough one.
Because of how they work, or maybe with Alicia's drive and ambition, she's lost sight of what values that are really important. I don't know that she came around ever, but maybe that was part of her drive.
Yeah. Right. Do you want me to take this one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You're on.
Okay. I would say that, everybody deserves love and respect. I mean, Alicia and Kelly are not the most sympathetic characters, but everyone is deserving of love. But I think what they show is that the choices that we make matter, and they definitely affect our families. And I think they made some bad choices, and
that doesn't make them bad people. It's just a bad choice.
They made bad choices.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you think that, and so the follow-up question is, do the daughters each have the mom that they deserve?
Okay, well, as I have the teenage daughter, I get that one.
Yeah, I have two. I have two teenage daughters. So yeah, I'm trying real hard to be the mom they deserve.
Yeah, because mine's still, she's turning 14 on Saturday, so she's still a young teenager, but
very sweet.
Right, so she's still very sweet. So but I would like tongue in cheek say, does any teenage daughter have the mom they want? But
Fair point.
Yeah. But I would say generally I think Winnie does.
Yeah.
I mean, Marin's awesome. So
yeah, and I think in Kelly's weird way, she does support Chrissy. I mean, she's
absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah.
Right. I think it's Burke that maybe is the most challenged because her mom just can't see her for who she is, which is a terrible thing. Yeah.
Did you start having conversations in characters while you were writing? When you just made a little reference like, well, that, I mean, how when you put yourself, in the process in those characters' heads, how, well, I don't know how they would answer that question, or wait, no, she really would, Kelly really would do anything for Chrissy. Alicia would do anything for Brooke, but I think it would be only to make her look good. I don't think it's at Brooke's benefit.
We
definitely did. I mean, we got really deep into our characters. There's no question. Yeah,
and then they tell you what they're gonna do, and they reveal themselves to you.
Yeah, and part of our process at the beginning before we write a book is to really develop a very detailed character Bible of our characters. So and a lot of it never makes it into the book, but it gives us, because we're two writers, and so we really need to have a very clear understanding between the two of us about what all of our characters' backstories are, and what their like influences in their lives were, and so we definitely take a lot of pains with our characters, and then they just become real to us.
You had mentioned earlier about trauma in Marin's life, which truly was a very well woven storyline throughout. Some stuff you don't see coming, even though you might have like made hints about it early on. Totally didn't see. It was almost like, I'm not going to give it up.
Yeah,
I'm going to use the you can't.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. But you don't see it coming, and that could be its own separate book. And the way that it involved technology. So this question is, for how is technology, that played a big part in that plot twist. How'd you come up with your use of technology so good, from the texting and the phone to being able to not hack, because if you have somebody's password, you're entitled to use it to log in and read it.
Are you?
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of part of your job. So there's that. I don't know. I'm not implicating myself.
Right.
But is technology a good or a bad thing in your process, either in writing or while raising your children? Would you want to raise your children with the technology? Well,
we are.
I kind of wish we didn't have to. I mean, I think it'd be the good old days, kind of, but it was simpler, when you didn't have to be worried about that.
You knew a little bit more what was going on. But when we think about technology, the good side of technology, our writing process wouldn't exist without it.
That is true.
To be co-writers, we are so dependent on. We use a program called Scrivener to script out every single scene, and then we can each access it and see what the other person's doing. We're in Google Docs. We have a shared calendar. We have shared emails. Like, what would we have done without Zoom? Because we've continued to write during the pandemic. We Zoom for hours. We wouldn't be here right now having this opportunity. Yeah. So
we even had to have our kids teach us Instagram. What could go wrong? That's been fun.
Your Instagram is a hoot. Come on. That is fun.
I think it's really funny watching your moms learn how to use Instagram. Like,
right.
We think they should film us doing it.
Right. Yes. We've often thought that would be like a fun reel, showing how do you do this? What do you,
right.
What do I push? If I push this, is it gonna,
right. But Mom, you've asked me that 40 times.
Yeah. No, you just have to tap it right there. That means you like it. You don't need to go find the little heart.
Right.
I like the heart. I like my way. Thank you.
And I think Wendy spent about a half hour trying to teach me how to do a boomerang for Instagram a couple weeks ago. Yeah, that was
over the phone.
Over the phone.
Yeah.
The key to boomerang is you have to you have to hit the button while you're doing something. That's like what makes it look really good.
Yours look great. You did great.
Eventually. Yeah, it took me a while.
Yeah. So how are you handling the pandemic? It sounds like you've reached a happy medium.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that.
As well as anybody. Okay. Yeah. It is also National Wine Drinking Day today. So.
Really? Is that right? Okay, we'll have to do that after this. Yeah, right. So, I mean, I guess I would say in terms of our writing and what we thought our book launch would look like, we've definitely had to make adjustments, right? We didn't think we'd be stuck in a box online for our launch events. And, we didn't think we'd have to do this thing called fusing our pods, which sounds really bad, to be together for our launch. And, we didn't even know what a pod was when we sold our book. So, it's been interesting. I mean, for a while, Wendy was having trouble trying to finding a quiet place to work. So she was working in her kids' playhouse in the backyard. But the only problem with that was that the Wi-Fi out there was also make-believe. So that set us back. Yeah.
Yeah, we just keep adjusting. We're grateful to be here.
Yeah, we are. We're super happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, what do you think would be happening at Elliott Bay Academy with college admissions during the pandemic? The college admissions season.
Fun hypothetical.
Yes. Well, so we've thought about this a little bit. So here are some of our ideas of what would be happening. So most colleges have gone test optional this year. But we're guessing the mothers at EBA would be flying their kids around the country to states that are actually offering the SAT or ACT because just in case. Yeah. Like it might help. We think there'd be a lot of anxiety around the impact of the pandemic on acceptance rates because so many kids took the year off. We think there'd be a lot of concern about how do you get all those resume building leadership opportunities in when you can't leave your house? Right. And we also think there'll probably be a lot of parents lurking off screen for Zoom meetings between the students and their college counselors, thinking that the college counselors don't know they're there.
Like sending them texts going, ask this, ask that.
Take care of that. When my kid's on the phone and I whisper something and my daughter said, "You don't talk as quiet as you think you do. You do not whisper." Oh, sorry.
So that's been fun to imagine.
Yeah.
Well, the launch of the book has been really, I would, so much fun to watch and well received. Your website is absolutely dynamic. I would highly encourage anybody watching to, go to the website because at dobmeierkatzman.com, they have a whole section for book clubs. There is, you can put on your own menu party. You can have a playlist of things to play. I mean, there's a parenting quiz. I did not take it.
Oh, you should take it.
You should definitely take it.
I don't want to take it. I don't want to take it. I'm scared that I won't be enough like Marin. And then I'm sad that I'd be too much like Kelly. I know I'm not Alicia. One of the cool things about the site, though, is that it has even a little button for, TV and film, options. So I'm glad you're represented that way. So let's talk casting. Let's talk about your dream cast for this movie. Or it could be a docuseries, right? I mean, they're big on that right now. Who would you want?
You've read the book. Would you like that? Well, we're curious because we know things that are in our heads and we are creating characters, but what we don't know is what did you imagine when you Like, how did we bring Winnie and Kelly and Alicia and Marin and Alicia to life for you?
I saw Alicia as like I wanted to see Emma Stone play that role. I don't know why. I think she's crazy talented. She might be too young. No, she's not. Yeah, she is. I like her. Well, I knew she couldn't play any of the kids. I couldn't help but think of Lauren Graham because for Marin, but then I thought that that hits too close to, that character Lorelai's backstory. So yeah, Kelly, I thought Kelly is a blonde, but for the life of me, I can't think of, and I not Nicole Kidman, not Reese Witherspoon, not those guys, because that's two Big Little Lies.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, those are all fun ideas.
I can
send them on to the film and TV reps. Yeah.
No, the men, I think Brian would be like Penn Badgley. Badgley, am I saying his name right? My kids had me watching this crazy series as well, and they watch a lot of series. I'm watching a lot of TV with them that I would never have watched before, which is kind of fun. Yeah. So they do that. Okay, so I'm gonna go to a question here. Questions have been coming in. I've got one here actually. Let me look at this. Ellen, you kind of answered this earlier. Do you anticipate any brushback from the colleges you went to? Like you said, it's fiction, but where did you guys each go to school? I don't think we mentioned it.
I went to Princeton.
And I went to the University of Michigan.
Woohoo!
Yeah, go blue.
Go blue.
Go Tigers. All right. And then, of course, the last question we have for this evening is from Aunties. Claire always likes asking this question. What book are you reading right now? What is the book that is on your bedstand table?
Oh, okay. Good question. I always have at least 2 books going, because I like nonfiction and fiction. So for nonfiction, I'm reading Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. And my fiction book right now is a fellow debut book called The X Talk by Rachel Solomon. And it's actually set here in Seattle. And it takes place at like a national public radio. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's NPR. It's called Seattle Public Radio. Right. But yeah, but it's very sweet and cute, and I'm enjoying it.
And I'm reading also another debut. I'm reading The Kindest Lie by Nancy Johnson, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. So I just started that and really enjoying it, and it's gotten so much buzz. So I was super excited to pick that one up.
It's been fun kind of seeing books that are part of our debut class. We're part of like a Facebook group.
They're all debut authors. The list that It's like, okay, like I can read this one, and then I'm gonna, work down the rest of the must-read books of 2021. Well, Wendy and Tracy, I'm really thrilled that you could come here and talk about this fabulous book, which is available at your independent bookstore locally at Aunties. You can purchase it from there. And for joining us at Northwest Passages, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to talk to you and, help with the beginning of your virtual book tour.
Thank you.
As part of our, live in person, which we would totally have had you here because you're just in Seattle, it would be like, okay, just get on a plane. It'll take you longer to get to the airport than the flight to come over here. So when this pandemic is all over, you can come, and not for some fencing championship, I think, which is what I mean, we do some stuff in Spokane, but I don't even think there's ever been a fencing championship. Maybe it's possible. But at our live events, what we do is we will raffle off one of these exclusive. Only can get it here. This is the Spokesman-Review Tower, which as an author from Northwest Passages, when you come here, we take you up into the tower. It's really amazing. So we will raffle this off at the end of the evening. We have figured out a way to do that virtually. I have to share my screen, and of the 50 people that are registered for tonight, We will then select one from the Wheel of Names. Dun, da, da. So one of these people will receive the Spokesman-Review Tower Andy Warhol pick. Margaret Bruya. Fantastic. We will make sure that we get that to you. And thank you very much for joining us here tonight for this fantastic Girls with Bright Futures book. So happy to have had this time with you and Tracy and Wendy. For upcoming information about our next book club events, you can go to spokesman.com/Northwest Passages. Thank you very much.
Volcano eruptions aren't merely events of legend. Sometimes they happen in your own backyard. This momentous occasion's 40th anniversary was this year and was the prompt for the Spokesman-Review's Summer Stories series, featuring 17 stories from authors around the region. Compiled into a book for the first time, sponsored generously by STCU. All of the profits from the sale will be donated to Spark Central. Thanks for joining us today. All of our videos and discussions are archived on our video site, which you can access for free. If you feel compelled to buy a ticket, please take that cash and instead make a contribution to the Community Journalism and Civic Engagement Fund via the Inovia Foundation. We appreciate your support.